Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start all over again just so that we're not going, what did she say? Homeopathy. Homeopathy is a medicine that was developed by a man named Samuel Hahnemann. No tests, so you don't have to take notes. About 240 years ago. And his premise was not that we're going to take a medicine and then get rid of a symptom. Instead, he thought, what can we do to have the body sort of ignite and start its own healing process? So rather than taking medicines like we do in traditional American AMA medicine, which are usually going to stop a symptom or maybe add something to, and in this case with diabetes, there's something called insulin that everybody is very glad for. And homeopathy is not going to take the place of insulin. But what it does instead, it has these, we don't call them medicines, we call them remedies. So they are prepared totally different than anything that you would normally use. I won't go into a pharmacology class right now, but basically it takes substances that would otherwise, in a healthy person, cause an ill effect. An example would be, way back when Samuel Hahnemann was around, malaria was found to be cured by quinine. So this man who had heard all these different, he was a translator of medical things, and he had read about Hippocrates, he had read about all these people in ancient China, about people that were over in Scotland and Ireland at his time that were finding out some of the same things that he was finding out. So he thought, okay, there's a term, like cures like. So if that's the truth of what he was reading in centuries worth of medicine from different areas, then that same thing that he knew about quinine being able to cure malaria, if he, being a healthy person, took that quinine, he would get the symptoms, not the disease, but he would get the symptoms of malaria. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. So you're thinking, well, what's so exciting about that? Because now healthy people can take things and then have rotten symptoms of diseases. What he did then was determine that if he took minute amounts of a remedy, example being quinine, and gave that to someone with malaria, it would heal the malaria, and it would not have any of the side effects that the quinine had, because it did have side effects. So that was the very beginning. That was the birth of homeopathy. Since that time, there are now, I think, over 6,000 remedies. And the ones we'll be talking about, there's a little list there for you on your papers. But what they did was find that you could look at a person, the whole person, not just their symptom of something like a disease called diabetes, but they look at the entire person, because you're not just physical. You're physical, you're mental, you're emotional. So it's a very holistic medicine. And so by going to a homeopathic doctor or a homeopathic clinician, they would interview you, and that's all. No scans, no blood work, they just talk with you, and they take your symptom picture. I mean, you might be someone who is really anxious, and then there's another person with that title of diabetes too, that's real laid back. You could have something where you have the burning prickling. Another diabetes patient doesn't have that. Maybe they have stress headaches. Maybe they have insomnia. So each one of those different things that are not just the physical part of the pancreas not being able to do what it's supposed to do, they take all those symptoms, your symptom picture, and come up with a remedy then that is going to either alleviate or totally take care of that. So, for example, there are remedies that will actually lower your blood sugar, which is going to be a major help, because with diabetes, more and more and more and more insulin is needed. So again, with homeopathy, we're not going to say, stop visiting your doctor, just jump on board on this homeopathic, trail. But instead, you want to be aware that there is this arm of medicine that will help with some of the things. People with, they get blindness through the retinal issues. Homeopathy, again, it's not going to deal with the insulin per se, or it's not going to heal the pancreas, but it is going to alleviate and often heal the problem with the circulation in the retina. So there are lots of good news parts of this particular branch of medicine. Unfortunately, here in the United States, most regular doctors are resistant to homeopathy. They're going to say, oh, it's just a placebo, or it can't possibly work because it's not a biochemical medicine. So, well, no, it's not a biochemical medicine. It is a medicine that uses the energy from any particular source that they use, just like the quinine. The quinine is no longer in a homeopathic dose. So a laboratory is not going to be able to take your little remedy of quinine and say, oh, that's quinine, because there's only the energy imprint left in the medicine, which sounds kind of new agey or woo-woo, but it is, if you study microphysics, you'll understand that when we get down to the atoms and to the fact that every single atom and every part of the atom has an energy charge. And so you're all sitting here and you're like batteries right now. Every one of you has a different frequency. You do. And you've got how many atoms in you? How many molecules? How many body systems? How many cells? I mean, there's a lot going on there in this one body. And so you take that, and what the homeopathy does is with these different remedies that come from either animal, vegetable, or mineral, their frequency is going to be a frequency then that will trigger your basic constitution or vital force and say, hop to, this needs to happen. So it might dilate certain capillaries, like for the retina. It might turn phagocytic cells, which are part of the lymph system, to clear out some dead cells. So there's all sorts of different things. But once you have a doctor or a clinician that studies homeopathy talk with you, go through, it's usually like an hour and a half or 2 hours of a visit, they're going to be able to match your exact symptoms with a remedy that they know. And by taking usually one dose of this remedy that has no side effects and will not counteract anything that your doctor gives you, that will help your body then start alleviating things. I mean, with bed sores, gangrene, just so many of the things that occur with various stages of diabetes, those things can be answered by homeopathy, where maybe not so much with traditional medicine. So, I've blathered on a little bit. So I know it's so confusing because, like, when I teach homeopathy, it's usually about 12 hours of basic homeopathy first. So you've just had 12 hours of basic homeopathy with a few holes in there. But so it's a little overwhelming. Hopefully these notes are going to help some. But I'm just going to take a couple of the remedies and try to explain them. One of them, which has a really weird name, says Giabolanum, is one of the largest, most popular remedies because it is so broad. It has such a broad effect over people with diabetes. It's commonly called Jambo, so you don't have to remember the whole thing, just the Jambo part. So it's often used for the type 2 diabetes, especially when blood sugar is high and fluctuates. Symptoms. And here comes the part with part of your symptom picture that they determine it's going to be Jambo rather than phosphorus or something else. So that person that has a symptom picture with excessive thirst, frequent urination, and weight loss is going to match up partially with this. Then you also have key actions. What happens? It's going to help regulate blood sugar and improve metabolism. I think that's good for anybody. So that's just one of them. Then there's phosphorus. That's suitable for diabetic patients with a tendency to weakness, dehydration, and excessive thirst. In their symptom, they have thirst for cold drinks. Everybody who's thirsty doesn't necessarily want cold. I've got my hot water right here. So, you know, we're all individual, and some of you want nothing more than a glass with a fourth cup of water and then all the rest ice cubes. Someone else wants to drink room temp or hot water.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. On my back now. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. Not used to using one of these. So again, symptom picture, two people might have excessive thirst, but then one of them is going to not want to have cold water at all. So that's very specific. So you can see where if someone's asking you questions and being specific, they're going to be able to target the right remedy then with that patient. That patient might, again, like I mentioned, like anxiety, there are patients who can't sleep, not because of, certain chemicals that are there, but because of their high anxiety or fears. And so just because someone has insomnia, it's not necessarily the anxiety or fear. It might be they have a shortage of magnesium. So you can see that just by saying, oh, well, she's got insomnia, we'll give them that remedy. That's not how the homeopathy is going to work. It's going to be much more specific than that. Okay? I think what I'm going to do is stop there and ask for questions.
So that means I can't just take jungle and seed trees because that may not be me, maybe her, whatever. So a homeopathic doctor would look more deeply than just take the seed.
Exactly.
Take something out for me particularly.
Exactly, because they're going to address so many things. For example, the first time I had what's called a constitutional, and that's what you would have with a homeopath. They might ask things like, do you like it better to be near the ocean, or are you more peaceful and at rest in the middle of a forest? And you're sitting there thinking, well, Dr. Jones never asked me that. Well, what does that mean? But that has to do with your temperament, with your emotions, with your mental state, right? And we're all so different. And they might ask something like, well, do you sleep with your feet out of your covers? Who knew? Or another one that I thought, here I lived for a long time already. I'd slept every night, and they say, would you rather sleep on your right side or your left?
Okay.
So very, very specific things, as you can see. Are you thirstless? I was thirstless for a long time until I figured out water was probably pretty important since I'm 80% water. But then foods. Do you like bitter? Do you like sour? Do you not want to even eat until 11 a.m.? So very, very, very specific things. Do you want a dog around you, or would you rather kick it? So lots of different things. So you might have 4 or 5 symptom pictures or symptoms that patient B has as you being patient A, but that's where the clinician comes in, because there are a lot of books out there in homeopathy that you can kind of do some guesswork with and say, I'm heading in this direction. But then it gets much more specific than that, especially when you're dealing with a chronic disease like diabetes. Okay? Does that answer that? Sort of, kind of?
Yeah, so you said over 6,000 remedies, so it can be any one of those. In my particular case, it might be suitable.
Right. Well, with diabetes and the symptom pictures in diabetes, and we could say there might be 200 of them.
I don't just have diabetes.
Right.
I also have high cholesterol, I also have high blood pressure. So
Right.
I
So you
can't
have-
look at diabetes.
Right. So then you're getting the idea of it. So someone might have allergies along with diabetes. So the remedies would be different. Okay, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Does the homeopathic physician consult with your medical doctor to make sure that the medicines that you give or the pills that you give are
Yes.
okay?
Any homeopath will be more than glad to help talk with a regular physician. Not all physicians are going to be willing to talk to homeopaths. I know I'm from Virginia until this last 8 years, and I know of 3 homeopathic medical doctors. So they were MDs first, and then they thought, I'm going to do the good stuff. And so then they went ahead and trained some more and became. This woman over here has a question too.
Oh, I was just saying, I was thinking, but the remedies, this is nothing that we could pick up and buy ourselves.
Actually, most of them you could, but you're not going to be able to just pick them up in Good Foods or something. Some of them you would have to order online, and there are specific things called potencies. So it's not like you would go into, what's its store? Sprouts. They have some homeopathic remedies there, but they're only going to have 1 or maybe 2 different types of remedies, like a 30C or a 200C, where your doctor might say, your homeopath might say, I want you taking tinctures, not little pellets. So there's differences, but almost all of them could be ordered by individuals because there are no side effects. There's nothing dangerous about any remedy. Yes, ma'am.
I'm originally from India, and homeopathic is very popular there. But then when you were on that medicine, there were a lot of dietary restrictions, as I remember.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because I did not share anything about what can antidote or turn off the good effect of a remedy. So, we're in America. How many of you drink coffee in the morning? America. Okay, so guess what? When I first tried using homeopathy, I was doing it for my daughter, and she had plantar warts. So I was using something called Thuya, which you're probably familiar with. Well, I tried that, and she not only, well, she wasn't drinking coffee at that point, but she was brushing her teeth every day. And guess what? In America, almost all of our toothpaste have mint in them. And so the restrictions you're speaking of, the only restrictions there are, is that if you want your remedy to work, you're not going to antidote it or turn it off. So if you drink coffee, guess what? You've just turned off the benefit of your remedy. Or if you use mint. So what are we going to do? We want our coffee. So there are other things. I mean, way back when, there were a couple of really pathetic substitutes for coffee. There's some really good ones now. If anybody wants to know, I will share it afterwards with you. And mint, there are lots of toothpaste now that are mint-free. Like I use one that's got fennel and cinnamon in it, and it's great. But anything with a high frequency will antidote your remedies, because remember, these remedies are not biochemical, they're energy. They have a frequency to them. So if you had a tuning fork, you know, way back when, the guys who come and do our pianos had tuning forks. Now they just have these little electronic devices. So if you hit a C major tuning fork, and you're saying, okay, that's me, that's the healthy me, but then a disease like diabetes comes along, and maybe that's an F minor, you put that next to your healthy C, your C major is no longer C major. Frequencies always are going to affect one another. And so if you have a high frequency, aromatic coffee, wonderful aromatic mint, eucalyptus, so many different things have high frequencies. Perfumes, they're all high frequencies. That's why you can smell them. They're out in the air, right? So if it's something that's a high frequency, it's going to affect your remedy. Another one of the major ones is when you go to the dentist and he drills your teeth. That would just turn off your remedy. Now, is that an awful terrible thing? Well, it's an inconvenient thing. However, you can just take another remedy, and then you're back in the picture. Okay? I know it's confusing, but just watch well to know that there are things that can assist you in your path to the best health you can have when you're still dealing with diabetes. Yes, ma'am?
So is the coffee no good because of the caffeine in it?
No. So whether it's caffeine or decaf, same thing. So I mean, you can drink black tea, green tea, you can drink anything with caffeine, but no, it's the coffee itself, it's the smell.
Good to drink tea?
Oh yeah,
Matcha, is it? Okay.
oh yeah, lots of that.
Could you take it and have a certain amount of time before you take it?
Well, now, we're dealing with chronic here because it's a disease. If you have, okay, if I walked around here quickly and banged my elbow right now, I would reach in my pocketbook and pull something out called arnica. I would then not bruise, it would not hurt. That would just go away because arnica montana, which is one remedy, assists my body immediately in getting rid of any of the tissue that has been seeping out. There's, like every single little cell we have has this tissue, has a liquid in it. And so if a cell wall breaks, then out comes this fluid. That's what causes us to have this swelling when we get a bruise or knock ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then, like when people bonk their heads, you go, oh, what a goose egg. Well, you don't get a goose egg if you use arnica. You won't get
How do you spell it?
arnica. A-R-N-I-C, and the whole name is Arnica montana, but if you just remember the arnica part, anybody who sells it knows what it is.
A-R-N-C-A?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's arnica cream that a lot of people are familiar with sore muscles or arthritis. How we doing that time?
1:30.
Okay.
I thought it was also anything tart, like orange juice or something, anything that...
Oh, no.
Things have changed then.
Yeah. Well, not that they've changed. I think that people have understood. Like, I study several doctors from India because I still teach homeopathy, so I'm always wanting to keep up. And depending on, there was an original book called The Organon that as they developed homeopathy and learned more and more, it was a brand new thing. Like they found out that people heal from the inside out. We also heal from the top to the bottom. So that's going to be one of the premises in the Organon. And so there's different things that they came along with. But no, there's, unless they steep their orange juice with mint, orange juice isn't going to be effective.
Okay.
None of the juices. Right. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
So mint isn't a good thing?
Mint is a wonderful thing. Mint's good. Eucalyptus is good. All those things are coffee can be good, but not with homeopathy. So that's where, just like she's going to be talking about aromatherapy. And aromatherapy is
They like the aroma that put in there, or mint, or the eucalyptus, or
Right, so-
lavender.
right. So if you're using, now lavender fortunately has a lower energy level, so lavender is never going to mess with homeopathy. But the thing is, you're balancing. You're going to either say, okay, I am going to have that coffee, I am going to use some high energy aromatherapy for a particular benefit, or I'm not right now. So you just have to determine what you're going to do. Yes, ma'am.
I missed what you were saying. You said something about juices.
Okay, she had asked a question about juices because she had learned that juices would antidote homeopathy. It does not.
They're not.
They're fine. Everything, that's all safe.
I'm sorry, still not.
Oh, that's all safe.
It's all safe.
Juices are
for
safe.
use.
Do all those juices.
Okay.
Do that beet juice. Do that carrot.
Suppose you have something like, what's a supplement? Sea moss.
Oh, supplements?
Yeah.
Okay, supplements again are biochemical. So they're not going to be affecting the homeopathy at all, and the homeopathy will not affect them. Okay? Yes, sir.
Do I understand correctly, homeopathy was to avoid high frequency?
Yes. So if you have homeopathy, I have several what I call kits. I'm not going to store them near a microwave or near a TV or a modem or any of that stuff. I am not going to, what else? Put them near my breaker box of my house. I'm just going to store mine like in a linen closet where there aren't any wires around.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have a whole kit in my car, and it's in the trunk of my car, but there's nothing in there. Homeopathy also does not ever expire. There's going to be an expiration date on it, but the FDA makes you do that. But it never expires. Now, it'll expire in a minute if you go ahead and set it next to your microwave when it's on. And then that's going to be the frequency thing again.
But it's not hot and cold, like you sit in your car, in the summertime, your trunk is really, really hot.
It does, but it's not changing the frequency. Okay? So,
It makes me want to, because all of us want to self-substitute, so it makes me want to figure out what is high frequency, what is not. I can't go to Google. I've never seen Google say coffee is high frequency.
but you don't, but easy way to do this for just our all-purpose general stuff is to know that, does everybody know what an EMF is? Electromagnetic field? Okay, so every outlet here, when you're standing close to it, there's going to be a higher EMF reading than if you are sitting, well, you're sitting right near one too, but if you're sitting in the middle of a room. So there are electromagnetic fields all over the place. Every time you go running down the road and you see all those wires and those generators, crazy EMFs, they're really strong, okay? But for us, we can turn on a light. I can sit here near her laptop, and I'm not going to be too concerned about, the EMFs from that. But as far as like what we're eating and drinking, that's going to be, hey, can I smell this thing or not? Basically, that's it. If something's aromatic, it's aromatic because it has a high energy, a high frequency. Think of molecules. Your water, you can open up your water bottle, you're not smelling anything, right? But you open up probably one of her aromatherapies, and you're going to go, wow, you're going to smell it. That's because the molecules of that particular essential oil has a higher energy than H2O, and so that's why you smell it. You smell it because it's now out in the air. So that makes sense. Yes, Nellie?
Can maybe we take the questions at the end, because I'm going
Yeah.
to not have any time.
Right, let's do that. So if anybody has any other questions.
I was just thinking about any of those things that you said. One of my friends has those different things, and it makes a frequency sound. I forgot what I was saying. They look like salt globes, only they're empty.
I don't know.
Well, she had what you were saying, like the tunes, like different. Yeah, she has a tune for it, but there's
The drums.
it's not drums, but they're.
I just want to say, I have neuropathy, and I use the grounding mat, and it clears the neuropathy.
Yes,
That's due to frequency.
exactly. Thank you, everybody, and I will take any questions that you have later if you have them.
Now my battery's low. I don't know if it's going to last.
Does anybody need anything in between speakers? I'm gonna have to make it all up. So it will be coming. Donna, do you need any water or hot tea or anything? Do you need some hot tea? Okay. All right.
Hi.
Meet Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren Mayer. I'm a registered nurse, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and actually I have a Healing Touch practitioner. I'm a Healing Touch practitioner, which is all about energy medicine and frequency healing and vibrational medicine. And so some of what I will talk about today with aromatherapy is exactly that frequency medicine. But first I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about myself. I have a background mostly in med surg, and then I went to pharmaceutical research, and then I went into holistic medicine, primarily to heal my own issues, and I fell in love with aromatherapy. Let me see if I can. Let's see if this. Sorry. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about aromatherapy and diabetes today, and I put into Google, when we were talking about Google, aromatherapy and diabetes, because I wanted to make sure we're safe, because I don't just do aromatherapy, I'm also a registered nurse. So I've always wanted to make sure we're gentle with it, we're safe with it, and when I pulled it up, there's actually an article from the American Diabetic Association. So a lot of what I'm talking about today is related to that article, and then coupled a little bit with my experience. But basically, essential oils could be used for wound healing, they can be used to decrease inflammation, they could be used to decrease stress, they could be used if you have a wound or a sore. And then when I first knew I would be doing, so they reduce the side effects of any diabetic complications, such as we just mentioned, ulcers, skin integrity, and then it can improve the overall sense of enhancing your life. So what is aromatherapy? It's a therapeutic use of essential oils that come from plants used to promote physical, emotional, and mental well-being. You use it often to relieve stress, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about essential oils are made from steam distillants. So they're put in and done under high heat, and it breaks the oil away from the plant, and then you use that oil for healing benefits. It has a robust history. It goes all the way back to Hippocrates, and they used it for skin problems to treat for medical properties, as well as just for the aromatics of it, like she was talking about, pleasant scents. In 1940s in France, there was a French chemist that used essential oils to help a chemical burn. Back in the day, the only way to treat that was to amputate. And so they used lavender and some other things, and they ended up healing the wound. So you might, if you go home and search aromatherapy, because I did that, and I found a bunch of articles that says not to use Epsom salts and some aromatherapy with diabetes. I think it's more about understanding how to use them safe and effectively than not using them at all, because there's a strong history, and I have personal experience too about how it has healed so much. I'm a double hip replacement, and I had scars because I had it posteriorly, and I did my aromatherapy ritualistically, and it really helped heal it, and I barely even have any scars. It also helped me in my own, had a hysterectomy, and so I felt hormonally imbalanced, and I used the aromatherapy. I would put it in a little fractionated coconut oil with the aromatherapy and stick my fingers in it and smell it. Usually after a shower, I would rub it all over on my belly. I usually on the feet's a nice place to put it. And then as I did that, it always made me feel balanced and relaxed. And yes?
The aromatherapy is not simply smelling. You said it actually put it on.
Exactly. I'm going to get to how we use it too. Right now, I was just saying a little bit about my experience and a little bit about the history, but also the last 10 years, they're using a lot more in Europe in actual nursing care and medical care. Florence Nightingale used it to anoint people on their foreheads, the soldiers with lavender. Lavender is a very synergistic oil, and it's very balancing, and it calms the nervous system. So clinical aromatherapy, which is what I am, a clinical aromatherapist, not just an aromatherapist, because I use essential oils for disease things that are going on. So I'll see a patient, I'll do an intake, and then I'll see what they have going on with them, and I might make them a swab, or I might make a spray. One caution and warning that I say is I do not diffuse essential oils. They're too strong, they're too high of a vibration, they're too intense, and it's actually can be toxic if you put them plug in with the diffusers and run them in the room all the time. You want to use them usually diluted in a carrier oil or put in an Epsom salt, and then there's things you can look up to see the dilution ratios online. But the benefits we mentioned: stress relief, improves sleep, some pain management, some wound healing. It can be inhaled, and inhaled meaning not from a diffuser. You usually put like a 1 drop on your hand, and you would activate the oil by going like this, and then cup your hand and take a deep breath. Usually do like 3. And then I usually take, if there's extra, and I put it on me, but I don't ever I do neat like that if it's a safe oil, but I usually like to put it in a glass bowl, 1 or 2 drops of something with just maybe a tablespoon or a teaspoon of fractionated coconut oil or other carrier oils. You mix it and then I use it like that, because then you can put it all over your body. You can put it on dry skin, you can put it on wounds. But basically, so they're inhaled, they're diluted, they're applied topically to the skin, depending on the symptom and the disease process. When scents are inhaled, there are chemical components. That's what she was kind of talking about, the difference between what resonates with the body because it's natural chemistry that the body can assimilate and use, as opposed to something that's man-made that might not.
Did you give us a handout with that?
I didn't give a handout with that. The only handout I gave you was a diabetic foot care.
Foot care and diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
But is it, you don't, do we have one on the simple oils? We don't have one.
I don't. I can send it. I didn't know to have all that on there. Sorry.
That would be really, really good.
I can make sure Jenny gets it to everybody in the group.
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep looking for what you're going.
Yeah, I can just copy my notes on a piece of paper. Absolutely.
Like you do, I need to make a copy and take my phone.
Oh, taking pictures.
Real helpful.
Yeah, I'll definitely make sure you get that. I didn't know what to expect, what this was. I thought it was more about bringing something and showing you how to use it. So you want all of it. I'll definitely do that. This is my first time in a very long time doing anything. I've been a stay-at-home mom for like 23 years, except doing the board certified holistic nursing, where I saw clients and did healing touch and aromatherapy while my daughter was growing up. So I'm back. She's in college. I'm going to be single now as well. So it's a whole new game, but thanks for having me. So it's a work in progress and we'll improve together.
So what you're saying is maybe using it on your body or smelling it better than I have a diffuser where I use.
Yeah, don't do the diffuser. No, get a little glass bowl, just a small one. Put 1 to 3 drops, about a teaspoon or about even a tablespoon. Mix it and then use it when you come out of the bath wherever you want. So when I had my hysterectomy, I used it in my lower abdomen. I put it on the scars. When my heart is hurting because I'm going through a divorce, I use it a lot up here. And I use it a lot to smell. We'll talk about how the smell gets into the body and how the...
Which one do you use to...
Lavender. Frankincense is a holy oil. Lavender is always calming to the nervous system.
Okay.
There's a Young Living has one that's a progesterone. That's like a hormone replacement one. I can definitely include a basic list of the oils. That would be good. And I'll put on their websites that I recommend. But basically, the scents are inhaled. They're chemical components. They travel up through the nose, through the olfactory nerve pathways, directly to the limbic system. It's there where you have your amygdala, and it plays a major role in releasing trauma and has memory. So the only way to stimulate the amygdala is with scents. So pleasant aromas lift their spirits because it goes directly to the memory of the brain that helps release the trauma and lift the spirits. Essential oils are life force. They're the essence of the plant. The oil and the resin carries nutrients throughout the plant and protects it from any stress. So these same oils protect the plants that then you're using to help protect your body. They're lipotrophic, which means they're fat soluble. They can therefore increase drug permeation. They cross the blood-brain barrier as well. So you can use them. They are used systemically. The body likes the chemistry of them. They have antiseptic and antimicrobial properties. In the blend that I made, I did put tea tree in there. That's a very good antiseptic, antimicrobial oil. Chemical interactions can occur between oils and our bodies that can result in changes. Sometimes you might be really toxic and you use essential oils and it's working to detoxify, and you might think this made it worse, but it can actually help you be clearing the toxins. When you use them topically, they're always diluted in carrier oil. Don't use them neat. Neat means you're using them out of the bottle directly onto your body, and they're too strong.
You said diluted carrier oil?
A carrier oil, carrier oil. So I'll send you a list of what they are. I mix some fractionated coconut oil with your Epsom salts. So that's a good one. Jojoba or jojoba, they call it, H-O-B. Yeah, that's another one. Some people like olive oil. You will never use cooking oils though, because they've been they've been manipulated and heated, and so it's not going to assimilate well with essential
I was
oils.
interested in your hip, because I've got hip problems.
Yes.
I'm very surprised when you said that could actually help the hips.
Absolutely, it's very anti-inflammatory. So is the fractionated coconut oil. And then for pain, you could put like peppermint. But cooking oils, again, are not suitable because they've been heated. Carrier oils should be kept refrigerated. So if you buy them, keep them in the refrigerator. They don't really rancid that easy, but they can. So it's just better to keep them in there. And I guess it would have been better to have the handout than the slides. So now I'm learning, but that's okay. So aromatherapy and diabetes, again, you can use them for blood sugar regulation, circulation, stress. And then here are some common essential oils if you want to take a picture or list these out that you might use for diabetes. So cinnamon and coriander, they help balance the blood glucose levels. Peppermint and rosemary enhance the blood flow for poor circulation. Lavender, frankincense, chamomile reduce stress, promote relaxation. This is a very synergistic oil. This is a very anti-inflammatory and calming oil. Tea tree and lavender are antimicrobial and help for the wound healing. Be sure they're therapeutic grade oils, so I'll give the sites that I recommend.
I use 100%. I always make sure it's 1% essential oil.
Yeah, sometimes it can still be manipulated. Yeah, it's hard to know if they're therapeutic or not unless you know a reputable one. Planet Therapy is a good company if you wanted to write that down. Holistically International. If you search Botanically Rooted, they just changed their name and it's like Holistically International. That's the company that I used with these, and she doesn't have a name on them. But those are really good too. Young Living I like as well. So let's see here. So because you're applying them to the body and inhaling them, that's why you want them to be pure therapeutic grade essential oils. Because if you have any components added to it or anything removed, that breaks the chemical natural compound of it, and your body's not going to process it the same, and it won't have the same healing properties. So when I say chemical properties, what I'm talking about is elements. Does anybody remember in chemistry where you have the elemental chart? Sure. Yep, and you have carbons, hydrogens, oxygens. That's mostly what essential oils are. So essential oils are complex mixtures of organic compounds. Sometimes a single oil can contain 3,000 elements, which can make them ideal for protection and healing. So they're found in nature to be ordered, coherent, harmonious, resonant, so they bring order to our bodies, kind of like homeopathic mentioned. It does with its tinctures, and that it's harmonious. Whereas man-made substances, they can create chaos, incoherence, and then inharmony and dissonance. So. Clinical aromatherapy safety, use of essential oils. There is good research data about wound healing, about infection. There wasn't a whole lot about diabetes per se, but some of those pain, infections, blood sugar regulations, there's more the symptoms that they've studied. And then I always say consult a healthcare provider. We're going to go over the handout in a minute, and it'll tell you why diabetes you have to be careful using essential oils. I think that was it for that one. Less is more. That's my motto with essential oils. Less is more. Usually if I use them for something, I'll use them for a week and then take a break. And that's probably when you want to pick up and do some homeopathy. So you don't like overdo it with essential oils, and then you can get a reaction to them. If you use the same one all the time, oh, I always put lavender all over me, it's just not how they're supposed to be used. So less is more. Use them for a week, take a break, pick up your homeopathy, do some of that, then come back to it. And that's what I do. I go in and out of using them. And rotate what oils you use, because your body might need something. So you had in the previous slide, you had a few of the oils listed. You could use 2 of them for 1 week in a blend, and then you can take a break and then choose 2 other ones and use them. So I did provide over there for you to take a little tape thing or whatever. So it's a diabetic foot scrub that I made. You'll see that it doesn't have a whole lot of Epsom salt because when we go over the handout, Epsom salt shouldn't be used with diabetics a whole lot because it can dry out your feet. But I put in fractionated coconut oil to moisturize, kind of offset that. You'll also probably see online it says don't soak your diabetic feet. So we're going to talk about that. Every now and then it is okay because these have essential oils in it that have a lot of healing properties. I think it's more finding out how to do it correctly and safely. So I did also, if you take that, I made a little card for you to take with you that has the recipe that I used, the directions. I crossed out soaking 15 to 20 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes is somebody who's healthy. If you're diabetic, especially if you have neuropathy or wound ulcers or anything like that, do lukewarm water and only do it for 5 to 10 minutes. But this will be your make and take up at the window. And then I put on there also the oils that were in there and what their properties of benefit are. And it didn't have Epsom salt on there, so I hand wrote the benefits of the Epsom salt as well. See, so let's go over that foot handout. Let's see, do I have one of those? What happened to my stack?
You can take mine.
Yeah, let me look at it. 'Cause I don't know where it went.
It might be incorporated with mine.
Is that what happened? Anyway, so say the guidelines for occasional diabetic foot soak. I put occasional because you don't want to soak your feet all the time if you're diabetic. So the frequency of doing them is rarely. I would recommend maybe once a month is what I would do. This says once every few weeks or monthly, not part of daily or weekly routine. Soak for 5 to 10 minutes and enough to relax, but not long enough to dry out the skin or increase irritation. And I would put a carrier oil with your Epsom salt every time to not dry your feet out. So your water temperature is lukewarm because you have decreased sensation on your feet when you are diabetic. So you can test with a thermometer if you want. Epsom salt amount, normally you could do a cup, but since diabetes, you have to be careful with Epsom salt. I just did a half a cup. And you can do it in probably a gallon of water, or I don't know if any of you have foot soaks, but some of them you could buy those plastic basins that are pretty inexpensive and they go deep enough. That would be ideal amount of water and size.
What a basement you get when you go to the hospital.
Yes, that exact, and they sell them at like the drugstore. Yep, absolutely. And again, I added the tablespoon of the oil. So be careful too, because it could be slick. You want to make sure when you get out, you don't slip as well. After your foot soak, as a diabetic, you have to make sure you dry everything, especially in between your toes, and you should be doing that anytime your feet get wet. Inspect your feet carefully, because that's something you should be doing as a diabetic, to look for any cuts, any wounds. Also, it's best to clip the nails after you soak because the nails get softer. So if you have to clip your nails, you'll do it after your foot soak. And then if you have any safe moisturizer, and if it wasn't moisturized enough and you feel like you want to put something on, you can. Just don't put that in between the toes. And then why the caution for Epsom salt? If you were to search it online, it's going to tell you no, but I'm telling you it's good. It has good properties. So the properties reduce and relieve the aches and the pains. They take swelling down. They soothe the stress of the skin. So it actually helps all the essential oils too. So it's because it's a drying effect, and we countered that because of the fractionated coconut oil we put in there, the carrier oil. Neuropathy might be another reason not to use Epsom salt, because the sensation of your feet is less. But we just talked about making sure you do it with lukewarm water and making sure you understand your sensation of your feet, because you don't want to burn your feet. And open wounds and ulcers, they say it could delay healing. I'm going to tell you, I think it will improve the healing, especially with the properties of the essential oil. But this is talking about Epsom salt soaks alone. I'm talking about using them with essential oils and the carrier oil. It's a medicine bath for your feet, and once a month, it'll really make it a lot better. So while Epsom salts aren't universally forbidden, they are discouraged unless approved provider. And if you have poorly controlled blood sugar, open wounds, peripheral neuropathy, I would talk to your doctor and make sure you understand what I'm saying here to be safe using it. So let's see, best practices I put down here. If this has nothing to do with essential oils, but this is the nurse in me on the bottom, best practices for diabetic foot care. Do you want me to read them to you, or you'll just take the handout with you? Take the handout with you. Yeah, that's what I thought. And then I think that's it. Let me make sure. Yeah. Yeah, so sorry I didn't have the handout. I'll make sure she gets it to each of you. Okay. And then, I don't know if anyone wants to, you can, if you know you're not sensitive. This is not one, that's one, but I can pass around.